Memphis track boy, let's go.
My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing.
Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Tiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Joined as always on Sunday by football analyst William Gardner. I got to ask you, William, they had the kickoff luncheon in Boulder on Friday. Can you taste it? Can you just feel that season opener against Georgia Tech kicking off?
Well, it's getting closer and closer, but these last 2 weeks are always the longest weeks of the year, I think, just waiting for that to get rolling, and then, at this point, they've done all the practice and start getting ready for Georgia Tech now. And you just want to get, especially this year, I think, the first year you didn't know what to expect. Last year I was pretty confident we're going to be a 9-win team. This year I think we're going to be better than that. So I just want to get it started and shove it down the throats of all the doubters. That's where I am.
I mean, that first game is difficult. We'll get further into that Georgia Tech matchup, and that's not a world beater. It's a good football team, though.
They're good. They're good. They're solid, but I think we're better than anybody on our schedule this year, quite frankly, and we'll see if that comes out to be true. But I don't know, it's always the same. Last year it was North Dakota. Oh, my God, it's the end of the world. They're the best team in history. And before, it was CSU. Oh, my God, they always get up for us. And I don't know. I think that's just the nature of the offseason. Whoever we play in the front, if we'd have played Delaware in game one, somebody would have come up with the fact that Delaware has beat 19 straight, P4 teams or something. I don't know. There's always something.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to respect your opponent, another thing to downplay your own ability to overcome all that, right?
Well, I don't think most people really understand what's on this team, this CU team this year. So I think some people are downplaying it because they still got the CU trauma, and other people just see, even amongst our fans, you lose a Travis Hunter, you lose a Shedeur Sanders, and you lose those wide receivers. And how do you come back from that? Well, that's what good teams do, man. You send guys to the NFL and you replace them and move on. So I think there's a lot of reasons why people are doubting. I think a lot of people still doubt Coach Prime as a coach, and I think that's kind of silly at this point. But I think he'll start to nail a lid on that thing with this season.
Yeah. Well, William, before we hit record, we both had Taco Bell. Why do we have Taco Bell? Well, we love Taco Bell, first off. That's a good place to start here. But they have a new Buffs box for the 2025 season, and it is taking over social media right now. You've seen a lot of Buffs fans that have been very excited to get their cups. I think if I go this way, you can see some of them back there behind my shoulder there. You got Quentin Gibson, you got Draylon Miller, you got Juju Lewis, and of course, you had to have Jordan Seaton as part of that mix. And so Taco Bell has teamed up with CU Athletics this season, and they launched the first ever $7 Buffs box. And when you do the math and you look at what you get in this box, which is a cheesy gordita crunch, a beefy 5-layer burrito, a Doritos Locos Tacos, and cinnamon twists with a signature CU Buffs collectible cup with those 4 designs that I talked about. I mean, you're talking about a $17 value right there for $7. And it's pretty cool to see those 4 guys represented, across the state of Colorado for Taco Bell. And there's a scholarship tie-in for every CU touchdown score this year. Taco Bell is going to donate $1,000 to the Golden Buffalo Scholarship Fund. And every touchdown is worth points on the field in support for CU student athletes. Liv Moss. William, how was your beefy 5-layer burrito?
Well, 3 of the 4 things in the box are 3 of the 4 things I like best at Taco Bell, so it's going to work out for me, and I'm not ever going to turn down the cinnamon and sugar, so, the cinnamon twist will be fun too, but I think they're great. And like you said, I usually got to spend $16-17 to get that stuff, so it's a good deal. But I think what should be exciting to Buff fans is that this is a real NIL, not bags of money thing for those 4 players, and if I mean, the point of it for Taco Bell is make more money, right? So if people go in and buy more of these boxes and they make a profit out of it, there's an incentive for them to keep doing it and for other companies to keep doing it. So I think this is the kind of thing, there's been a lot of talk today about, since Coach Prime's kickoff luncheon speech, about fundraising for CU. And this is one of those opportunities that you can get involved in and go sort of not only get something for it, but support the team,
Well, I'm pretty excited about this sponsorship for the podcast, but I know our teenage kids, we got 3 of them that are all in high school, are even more excited. And I remember when I was in high school, man, like Taco Bell was like my diet because it's quick, easy, and you can get out there with your friends. And it's a cool partnership. It's the closest food we have to our house here in Johnstown. So I know our kids are going to consume many Buffs boxes in the coming months.
Yeah, I think it's fun. You got the players on the cups and things like that. That's always exciting. I mean, I'd pick, if it was me, I'd picked four offensive linemen probably, but that wouldn't have sold so good. But I think it's a great deal, and I think we need to see more of this. So I think it's great.
Yeah. So go out there to your local Taco Bell. If you live in the Colorado area, obviously, if you live out of state, I'm guessing they don't have the Buff Box, but if you live in Colorado, please check it out. And we're going to be talking about this throughout the season because it's a great new sponsor of the podcast. William, we had some media scrums this past week during the 3rd week of preseason camp. We talked to special teams coordinator Michael Pollock. We talked to Quentin Gibson, who's having a really nice first camp with the Buffaloes. Place kicker Alejandro Mata, who previously represented the Buffaloes at Big 12 Media Days. Puncher Damon Greaves. Tight ends coach Brett Bartoloni. Tight ends Savell Smalls and Zach Atkins. I don't know if you got a chance to watch those interviews. If you did, was there anything that stood out to you about any comments within all those media scrums?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to take out of all that stuff. First of all, I had to remind myself that there was a Damon Greaves on the roster because he plays one of those positions that we.
Oh. Are we gonna do this?
I got the heavy sigh, man. Holy cow! I don't know now. I'm not. Just way to motivate me.
He played Australian rules football, though. Do you not respect that?
Yeah, well, as soon as he tackles somebody else, I'll be all on board.
But he said, if I'm the one tackling, something went wrong. So I hope I don't have to do that. But he's down. He's down for it, man.
Maybe he should run faster. I don't know. Okay. No, I think in all seriousness, though, a lot of those things, I think that the interview with Bartolone and then Smalls and Atkins was interesting. I thought it was interesting that Zach Atkins has got the kind of speed that the coach is already talking about, sending him deep on mismatches. And if they're talking about it, they're thinking about it. It means we might actually see it. Imagine that, sending a tight end running down the seam. We used to make bread and butter out of that at CU, when we had great tight ends. And so I didn't know that Zach Atkins was the fastest tight end. I would have guessed Smalls because of his athletic background. But I like the talk there about Bartolone talking about his relationship with the 3 line coaches and teaching these guys how to block, and Savell Smalls and Atkins both going into the small details of blocking and how technical it is, right? And that's what I keep telling people is like, you don't just send a big guy out there and tell him to block those guys because those guys are hell of athletes. So I think we'll see a lot more from Smalls this year because he's had a year under his belt, and I think we should all expect big things from Atkins, and I think we should expect big things from the tight end position. So that stood out to me. I think Quentin Gibson has shown a lot this year. He's going to be an exciting guy, right? Well, frankly, all those freshman receivers are showing up. Well, 2 of them, I guess there's only 2, but Cornell Farrakhan keeps showing up in all the practice videos, making big catches too. So, we didn't even factor them into our talk of the wide receiver room earlier in the summer because who knows what you're going to get, right? But they're both just jumping right in there. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that came out of those various different interviews and what have you.
Yeah, no, good stuff there. I think the greatest thing about Zach Atkins is that he's got 2 years of eligibility. He's going to make some plays for the Buffaloes this fall, and there's a chance he could end up by the end of the season as their number one tight end. I do like what Savell Smalls has done in terms of improvement. And I was out there on what day was that? Was that Thursday? Taking photos. They had a really long photo window, and I was going through my photos today, and Savell Smalls was clearing people out, unlike he was last year. And so, that's an exciting proposition just for this former blue chip recruit that made a selfless move to play tight end. But Zach Adkins, by the time he goes into his senior year, is going to be pretty well polished, I think, and it's going to be pretty special at that position.
And I think I liked it. You reminded me of Bartolone talking about, they're going to use 11 personnel and 12 personnel. For those that don't know, that's one tight end, two tight ends. And they are dead serious about running the ball this year, and they got the backs to do it. So, some two tight end sets and some one tight end sets and things like that is going to really be different from last year as far as I'm concerned. And so Bartolone talking about, if you've got tight ends who can block and, catch passes, that's the value that the position really gives. You don't have to change personnel. You can just do everything in your offense. So it's exciting to me to see what's happening in that tight end room. And now we need to sign a couple more, keep building it up.
Yeah. On BuffStampede.com this last week, we had player features on cornerback Tion Parks, defensive lineman Amari McNeil, cornerback DJ McKinney, safety Tawfiq Bayard, safety Ben Finiseth, defensive lineman Anquin Barnes, and who we just talked about, Savell Smalls. I don't know if you had a chance to read all those again, kind of just if you did, any thoughts there?
Well, the best one to me was the one today with Xavier Hill.
Okay.
And I love what he had to say about why he came here, and that he was the best player on the Memphis team last year and graded out really well. And he wasn't promised a damn thing. He wasn't promised he was going to be a starter or anything else. And I liked what he said about, I wanted to come. One of the reasons I wanted to come here was because they weren't trying to buy me like some of these other places. And so, everybody pees down their leg about NIL, but it ain't about NIL for every guy out there. And I think it's become increasingly clear that the kind of guys that Coach Prime is bringing in here is a special kind of guy, and those kind of guys are not necessarily moved by the NIL. We don't necessarily want the guys that are moved by all that money crap. But Xavier Hill, man, you look. I'm got a photo up there, and he's just a beast, and love seeing that guy come in here and fight for that spot. And then all of those guys, all those interviews were interesting to me. Amari McNeil talking about he sounded surprised when he's like, I'm a senior. I didn't really think I was gonna, it happened so fast,
Yeah.
And I think that surprises all of them, and talking with I don't know if it was Pecco or one of the other defensive line coaches talking about if he does what he did against Texas Tech on a regular basis, he's going to the league, So, and then the guy who's really been the talk of the whole camp up front is Anquin Barnes, man. So, interview and hearing from him is, that piece that Sapp told him, if you don't get under 315, you're not playing for me. And he got down to 305. Wow. We just keep hearing story after story of guys who rebuilt their entire body, especially the big guys, under Coach Swayze. And so, starting to understand why we switched strength coaches, because it's going to make a hell of a difference, So all those guys, the interview with Savell Smalls, so much insight in what he talked about. And it's just exciting to me to see everything that's kind of developing and coming here. The Tawfiq Bayard talking about his brother, and how he kind of helps him and coaches him.
I think he's got 15 siblings. Can you imagine growing up in that house?
No, that's crazy. Yeah, being a parent, my God. So I don't know. I thought there was just a lot of there are more stories coming out of this camp. It feels like to me than there have been in a long time, and I don't, I just
it's been good stuff there. Yeah, I have really enjoyed the media day conversations that I have with these guys. There is you got to get into the season and face adversity for leadership to really get tested.
Right.
But it's tested quite a bit during camp too. Now it really is because it's a grind. But I've been pretty impressed with these guys, and those interviews were a lot of fun to do. Um, Ben Finiseth too, like just it looks like he and John Slaughter are going to be the backup safeties based on what we've seen.
Yeah, it looks like, and I think they're going to do pretty well. I mean, Ben Finiseth, frankly, would have been one of our best defensive backs 3 or 4 years ago. So, people think walk on, and some people can't ever get past that. But he's going to be a player for sure. I think Carter Stoutmeyer and Tawfiq Byard are going to be as good a pair of safeties as there is in the conference. And I'm going to say that a lot, as good as anything else in the conference about a lot of positions we got. But, John Slaughter's he's not one we really mentioned too much over the summer or in our top 40 or anything else. But that's the thing, man. You come in, you put the pads on, and dudes start to appear. And that's the beauty of the college game, man. They get older every year. They learn a little more every year. And every year there's somebody that just jumps out. You're like, well, I didn't expect that, but there he is,
Yeah. And you mentioned Andrew Swayze. It was funny at Friday's kickoff luncheon. Pat Shermer used the word we got Swayzed is what he said. So it's a new term around Colorado football. If you're talking about Jordan Seaton and the progress he had this past offseason, you just say he got Swayzed.
Yeah, or we were just talking about Barnes lost like 30 pounds. So and then
Chauncey Gooden lost some weight as well. He's still a big guy. I mean, he's never going to be confused for a small guy.
No, you look at like Xylon Chrysler. He's still going to be around 340, but man, he changed it. It's a different 340 than it was when he first got here because I could just see that, from the videos and stuff. So I think that they did some amazing things in this offseason, even more than I've ever seen really in an offseason that I can remember.
Yeah. Shedeur Sanders unable to play in Cleveland's second preseason game due to an oblique injury, which was suffered early in the week this past week. And I saw an interview with Stefanski, their head coach, and he said it's really day to day. That's one of those injuries. It's kind of like a hamstring, an ankle, where like you want to get them back, but you do it too soon, and it can really have negative repercussions. And we saw that Dylan Gabriel struggled for the most part. And I don't know if you even want to touch on this. We know your history with the Oregon Ducks and all that. Do you want to just punt on this, or do you want to talk about it?
You think I don't want to? You think I'm gonna miss this opportunity? I think I got a new guy to watch for in the airports because Dylan Gabriel, you're a pussy, pal. Talking that trash about Shedeur. And then coming back later and saying, "Oh, I was talking about the media." Everybody knows what the hell you were talking about, and you're a gutless little coward, just like your piece of shit freaking college coach, man. He's all big and tough inside the locker room with all of his boys around him, but he gets out face to face with Coach Prime, and he got nothing to say. So Dylan Gabriel's just like the punk he played under in college, and no, I don't have anything else to say about it.
Okay. Now that you've said what you need to say, you don't have anything else to say. Okay.
I'm back in the graces of the Lord. It's off my chest. But, it's unfortunate for Shedeur, an oblique really for a quarterback. You need to be able to twist and throw the ball and everything. And so it's really a shame. I think if he could have started this game, he really would have cemented, nationwide what he does. But he'll still get his shot, whether it's with those idiots or not. But I don't know. That's the nature of the game. You get hurt, you got to come back and keep proving it.
He made a couple of nice throws, but anytime there was any type of pressure, that's when you saw the difference. And I know that they want Shedeur to just operate within the system. Well, that's not how the way the NFL in the world works, right? You got to operate outside of what's expected, and he's really, really good in those situations.
Well, and like you look at Peyton Manning and John Elway didn't play within the system. That what was magical about them was when they got outside the system. And when things broke down on the field and they had to figure it out, that's what makes a magical quarterback. every team in the league got a backup quarterback who can play within the system. That's why they're the backup.
Yeah.
When you're looking for guys who are going to take you to a higher level, you're looking for guys who can handle it when everything goes in the trash, and then B, can make something out of nothing and really make things happen. Dylan Gabriel can't do it. He can't even hold on to the ball with his little 6-year-old hands.
I noticed that Travis Hunter did not play, but it was more just precautionary. They're going to, he's going to be a starter for them
Oh, yeah.
at receiver and play a lot on defense. And so they're just trying to be precautious with him. And that's a smart thing to do. Especially early in the preseason is about figuring out who's going to make that 53-man roster.
Right. And you're just trying to see who can play. He can play, and said you ought to put him on the field in a situation like this. You start playing him in that last 2 games so that the team starts to gel with the guys that you're going to go into the season with, but it'd be foolish to put him out there now. You already know what he can do.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else. Xavier Weaver had a nice kickoff return earlier today. Derek McClendon hanging in the NFL. It sounds like Shiloh Sanders is competing with 2 other guys for the final safety spot on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster. We'll really go in depth once they lock down these final rosters and talk about the guys that made the final roster. And then I would imagine some of these guys will be, if they're not going to make the 53-man roster, not necessarily the guys I was talking about before, but some of the other guys that are trying to make it will, be part of practice squads here this fall. So there's going to be a big buff representation in the NFL for sure this fall.
Well, and it'll just get bigger every year from here on out, as we graduate more of these guys and put some guys in the league. We're going to put some offensive linemen in the league next year. That's for sure.
I can't remember the last time I was like, I got to see an NFL game. That happened with Shedeur Sanders in the preseason. Now I feel like with the Jaguars, I gotta carve out my schedule and figure out when that game's going to be on, because I got to see his debut, man. That's going to be must-see TV.
Well, and I want to watch Jimmy Horn Jr. because he's always going to be my favorite Buffs ever. All the guys that went up there, but I don't know. There's just a special place for me for Jimmy Horn.
Nice. So, could we call you a Panthers fan, or is that a stretch?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have I'm not an NFL guy all that much.
Me either. Yeah.
I guess I'm learning to hate the Cleveland Browns. I guess that's kind of you don't even have to acquire that taste. You just sort of, it's like you taste it once, like, no, I don't want to eat that.
Doesn't every Colorado fan want him to get traded at this point?
Yeah. Well, and, it reminds me of way back in the day, the Broncos seemed to play the Browns in the final, the championship game in the playoffs year after year. And so it used to be quite a rivalry, and
was that Bernie Kosar or pre or after?
I think it was after him. I'm trying to remember which years those were.
That would have been like, like late 80s, early 90s.
Maybe after that. I don't know.
Okay.
Might have been late. I don't know. Anyway, brother, there's too many years.
A different lifetime ago, right?
Yeah, right.
Is your business growing but not quite ready for a full-time CFO? Macaulay Capital offers fractional CFO services for companies doing more than $3 million in annual revenue. You get expert financial leadership without the full cost. Learn more about how you can improve your business's profitability and cash management at MacaulayCapital.com. If you know Boulder, you know the Hungry Toad. We've been serving this town since 1991, long before the lines on Pearl Street. Just north of campus, we're your local British pub with proper fish and chips, quality burgers, a scratch kitchen, real English cask ale, and no tourist fluff. We support CU football, women's soccer, and the loyal fans who keep it local. The Hungry Toad, Boulder-born, Buffs proud.
All right, let's get into our camp observations from week 3 of preseason camp. Who stood out? What impressed us? What potentially has us concerned? Any other thoughts here? I've been kind of jotting down my notes for each practice. I should maybe streamline this a little bit more because some of these guys like DeKalen Taylor are going to come up more than once. But let's start there.
That's the name, man. That's the name. That's the name. I told you guys, man. I told you guys right from the start. All you had to do was watch his films from last year. Where was he? Was
Incarnate Word.
Okay, I was going to say that. I thought for some reason it didn't sound right, but you watch him and he's got that shiftiness and that speed, and his speed is instant. I mean, he doesn't need to work up to that speed. And you know, there was a clip today or yesterday about he caught a pass in the flat and just made everybody look silly. But that guy, if he's going to be one of the best running backs, one of the biggest offensive threats in the entire Big 12 conference, and nobody sees it coming, man. Because that guy is just electric, you know. And why do they call him Track Hawk? Do you know that?
Well, he was kind of a track star, right? So he just kind of hawks
Well,
people down.
that's
Like, I mean, he's a hawk on the track, man. I
what-
I go to the reservoir every morning, well, almost every morning with our dog Punchy, a almost 5-year-old boxer. She's my little shadow. She's actually in my room, sleeping over on the chair I have over here. And we get out there, and we get out there a lot of times, like at like 5:30 when the sun is just starting to rise, and you see these hawks come in to the reservoir, and they're going for breakfast.
yeah.
And man, like the hit rate on those, they never miss. They get a fish every time.
and
Every
they, and,
time.
and they hit the water almost full speed. I mean, they're
It's
just like,
crazy. It's so fun to watch, man.
yeah, they're like
I feel
vicious.
bad for the fish, but I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
they're
fish,
like
so
they're like
that's hypocritical.
but you like that's DeKalon Taylor. I mean, he hits full speed, and he, you know, that the impressive thing, and the one that I saw today wasn't. Well, it was impressive that he got around the guys on the sideline, but it was the move he put on to make somebody look like an idiot. Uh, you know, maybe 30 yards down the field that really blew my mind. I mean, he was at full speed and he juked that guy, you know, like it was
Yeah,
nobody's business. So I think
yeah,
he's 1,000 yard back. I think he's going to be a big time key in the passing offense, you know, and it's interesting to see him and Micah Welch really teaming up together, you know, and really providing very different styles of running back. And I got to tell you, I keep seeing things from Simeon Price too, so I don't think he's out of the
yeah.
picture. But he adds a whole different thing to the roster there. I guess Hayden is hurt right now, so he's not playing. But you know, those three guys have impressed me so far.
Yeah. Not the depth you want, of course. You'd love to have 7 guys in that room, but yeah, no, I don't think DeKalon Taylor is going to be 1,000 yard rushing back, but I think he's going to be 1,000 yards all purpose for sure. Maybe even 1,000 yards of offense. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to catch a lot of passes too to really rack up those yards offensively. But I think he and Michael Welch are going to be 1A, 1B, and I don't think they're going to hesitate at all, like you said, to put out Simeon Price out there as well.
And I think, you know, like if you know, somebody's talking about they went goal line, that offensive line pushed the defensive line out 3 yards for a score. Now, does that mean the defensive line's got a problem? I don't know. It's freaking camp. You know, you don't know how to work that. But you know, you put a guy like DeKalon Taylor, my God, behind Xylon Kressler and Xavier Hill and Jordan Seaton and Larry Johnson and you know either McGill or Loveless, we're gonna see a lot of big plays, man. We're gonna see a lot of big plays, and we're gonna see tackle to tackle running, and it's gonna be exciting.
I've noticed the edge group keeps kind of changing up who's running with the ones. Have you seen that? I mean, you can see London Merritt in there sometimes, Quincy Wiggins in there sometimes. Of course, Arden Walker is the number one guy at that position, and you got Samson Okunlola getting a lot of reps in there, and as well as Keaton Wade. It seems like they've really been rotating those guys through there quite a bit, and that's a pretty good fivesome right there. I think Merritt is the guy that is going to have a moment at some point this season.
You said Wiggins, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. Because I was gonna say him too. But you did say five. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think London Merritt's just gonna come on more and more as the season goes on and he really starts to learn the game and the techniques. But you know, Arden Walker is clearly the number one guy in that group. And then I think they realize they've got behind Arden, you got 4 other guys who can play. Let's put them all out there and figure out what they do best and put them in situations that work for them. You know, so it's going to be another exciting season at the edge position, and I think this may be this. We led the conference in sacks last year. I would expect us to lead in sacks this year, but I think we might have a year where we finally see somebody really get up near 10 sacks or something like that as well.
Yeah. I asked Keaton Wade, hey, is there like a conversation in that edge group of like we gotta go back to back and lead the Big 12 in sacks? And he looked at me cross-eyed and said, we already did that. We got to lead the country now.
Yeah, right. And that'd be
Which is what you want a player's mindset to be. And
right,
sometimes
right,
you forget that, like, yeah,
right.
that they have to set these goals that are not unachievable because there's a lot of talent in that room, but it's going to be hard to achieve it. But that's where you got to set it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there, I think it's almost more exciting than last year looking at these five guys and still hoping for things from Webb Walker, and McPherson's going to be a project I think a little bit, but the other guy that kind of keeps coming into my consciousness, although I'm not watching him, is Martavius French, who seems to be really starting to come along at inside linebacker. So that would be a welcome development. Hearing good things about Jeremiah Brown. I still think Reginald Hughes is the other guy at that position, but if we can get Brown and Myers and Salter to give us good reps, and I think we'll be okay at that spot.
Yeah. I ran into Derek Webb again, former
Yeah.
forever Buff linebacker that coached Martavius French at his high school, Whitehaven in Memphis, and he was out for the kickoff luncheon, and we were chatting again. I mean, this Martavius French is a tough dude and a very vocal guy, a leader defensively. He even is. Did you see the exchange he had with Coach Prime, where he's like, I can cover Draylon Miller, and Coach Prime's like, we don't need linebackers covering Draylon Miller. That's a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't see that, but that's pretty funny though. And it just real quick, wasn't Derek Webb the one who put together our Colorado swag that's
Yes,
open?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I've
Yeah.
been putting the link to the full music video in our description. So if people haven't seen that, man, it's a pretty good song.
I've been wanting to mention that, but I never remember. So then when you mentioned him, I wanted to make sure I brought that up.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah, good to see him back.
definitely. Such a good dude. And he played for Dan Hawkins, John Embry, and Mike McIntyre. He went through some things during his time at Colorado.
Yeah, well, and what's worse, then you got the guys that came in with McIntyre and then, followed it up with what's his face. But a lot of guys went through a lot of stuff in that 12, 15 years. Hopefully we just move into a whole new era. But I'm hopeful that those guys are going to really improve at linebacker and give us the kind of play. I just have to keep reminding everybody that last year at this time, nobody had Hill Green as a starter either. So things change as you go through the season and get into the games. Like you said, some guys just show up in games different than practice. So we have to see some of that, and still, I think we're still working out some of these things. But I got to tell you, man, every position out there is looking good to me. We've just got some talent on this team that I don't think people are aware of.
Well, we were talking about running back and how we feel really good about the top three guys. And I shared my concern about the depth beyond that. I mean, those are the only three healthy scholarship guys at that position right now. So I think that's fair. Linebackers is similar to me because I've been very encouraged with everything that I've heard about Martavius French and Reginald Hughes, especially. Might be the green dot guy for the Buffaloes this year. And Neely was telling me that Jeremiah Brown has really come on.
Yeah, that's
this
what I'm
preseason.
hearing.
Yeah. So feel good about those three guys. Maybe Sean Myers as well. I have not heard his name come up a whole lot this preseason. That doesn't mean that he's playing bad. It just hasn't popped up, or we haven't seen much about him. So it's kind of similar. It's like really like kind of the starting group and concerned about what's beyond that.
It'd be lovely to see Kylan Salter start to play like he looks out of pads, and so I don't know. There's 5 guys there, and then Walker I think is kind of finding out that the game plays at a whole different speed here, so he's probably not going to be a guy that really contributes until later this year or maybe next year. But I don't know. Coach got some work ahead of him getting those guys up to speed, and there's a reason why. We got 3 good freshmen coming in, so that's good. It won't help us this year, but I do think those two. We were very lucky last year to be able to play most of the season with just those 2 linebackers and not have a lot of problems with it. So, knock on wood, hope we get that again.
Yeah. I thought both quarterbacks made a lot of plays this week.
And Coach Prime's talking about 3 quarterbacks, so I just think that I think.
Are you doing that for our special fan on the comments on YouTube?
I just, I just think Ryan Staub can play the damn game. He's not ever going to be in the NFL, but as a third quarterback on a team, you can't have a better guy than that, And I think that Julian Lewis is showing he can really throw the ball, and I think Salter, they're not going to show us on video the things that Salter's doing out there that really make him the number 1 guy. Because why show that to Georgia Tech? But I think people are going to be pretty amazed at what we get. I think everybody outside of Boulder is going to say, well, they're going to have struggles at the quarterback position, right? Well, I think that they weren't paying attention if they're saying that, but I think we're going to be all right, man.
Yeah, and the same expectation that I've had since I did early in camp. I expect Caden Salter to start, be really heavy in the RPO game, running the ball, and being just a real difference maker with his legs. I still think that I'd be surprised if Julian doesn't get in there at some point just to get some action.
I would be surprised if we don't see Julian Lewis in every game, frankly, at least a series or 2 to get him in there and change the pace and get him some experience. But in the modern era, there's no reason to save a red shirt. Let's get the kid out there and get what we can out of him before he goes to the next level.
Yeah, it really seems like he has gotten a lot more comfortable in the last 6-7 months, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's changed tremendously. In the last how many weeks have we been going now? 3 weeks, 4?
15 practices so far, 3 weeks. Yep.
Yeah. So I see great improvement and far more confidence in the last 3 weeks as well. And that's you're going through camp and now you're playing for a purpose and whatever, and the kid's growing up in front of our eyes. Really, that's the way I see it.
We've been talking a lot about the offense. There has been a good back and forth this camp. You kind of see, and that's what I would think a well-balanced team is gonna have. You're gonna have a side of the ball that maybe doesn't live up to their expectations one day, and then get really upset about it and come back with that vengeance the next day, and then vice versa. Kind of the good football teams I've covered at Colorado, 16 last year's Colorado team. You just kept hearing about the back and forth a lot.
Yeah, and I loved the scrimmage yesterday, I think it was, but when Coach Prime sort of lost it and said, "We'll start over and make it all conditioning. And he was clearly was pissed off at the offense. He said, "Get a damn first down."
He was mad at the special teams too. It sounds like they had 4 penalties on special teams. He's like, "Dude, if that happens on game day, we're down 14-0. Like, we can't do that." I think he's really over the slow starts in the penalties. Like, you can really tell that he's going into dad mode of like, this is unacceptable. I'll turn this dang car around if I have to.
Yeah. Go cut me a switch off that tree out back. Maybe that's my.
I don't know about that, but
I guess that's my ear. I don't know. But there's every day it seems like there's a different guy that just shows something. Another guy we haven't talked about. We talked about last week is Tyrekus Davis, and man, that guy, and he's the one I think I talked about him in our top 40. But I was expecting big things from him because of all the experience he's got playing at Wyoming, whatever. But he has just been phenomenal in this camp, from everything I've heard.
Yeah. What about receiver, man? Like, Draylen Miller is going to be a starter. Omari Miller probably as well. How do you pick between Joseph Williams, Sincere Brown, and some of these other guys that have been balling out? Even Isaiah Harge seemed to have a really good week for the Buffs.
Gibson and Farrakhan both having big weeks, and I think you don't pick between them. Somebody starts the game, and then all of them play a lot. I mean,
Even Caleb Mathis had a nice touchdown catch.
Yeah, I think I want to say I thought I heard one of the coaches, might have been Coach Prime, talk about a drunk sailor could throw the ball down the field and these guys will catch it. You just throw it out there, somebody's going to get it.
Hakeem Williams had a touchdown catch in the scrimmage yesterday too.
Yeah.
Can't forget about him.
Just the level, the depth and the level of talent in that room is crazy. It's just nuts. So Amari and Miller, Draylon Miller, you're just at a loss for words for I think the kind of guys that we have in that wide receiver room this year, and frankly, may have higher potential than anybody in that room last year, except for Travis Hunter. Some of them.
Yeah. I liked Damata Pecco's message on Thursday. He used a horse racing analogy about putting your blinders on. This is the toughest part of the preseason. Fans are almost kind of impatient. Can you imagine when you're having to get out there and it's going to be pretty hot again this coming week in Colorado? It's going to be in the 90s. I know it's not humid like a lot of these guys are used to from their home state, so maybe it's not affecting them too much. But these are the dog days for the Colorado football players. So I like that message from him. And
he's a guy played in the league for 15 years. I mean, if anybody's, he's probably seen more fall camps than almost any player that ever lived. I mean, who the hell played more than 15 years in the NFL?
Yeah.
So that's a guy. If these defensive linemen can't get psyched about playing for the guys they're playing for, they need to have their heart checked or something.
Yeah. It's a bummer that Cam Michael is out again this preseason. This is a guy we've been really excited to see.
Yeah.
He missed last season due to a lower body injury, now dealing with a hand injury. Also was looking forward to seeing Philip Houston, Manatai Amani working out there this camp. You mentioned that Hayden's been out at running back. Zach Chrysler banged up recently. So you had Kareem Harden working with the ones at right guard, which I don't know. Does that signal he's the sixth guy at this point?
Oh, because I saw Ogun B running with the ones at some point.
Was he too? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think that. I think Aki Ogun B, he's got more talent than Kareem Harden. Maybe he doesn't have as much heart. I don't know, but I think they're trying to figure out who that number two guy is going to be at that spot behind Chrysler, and everybody's got a shot right now. So I don't think that's decided by any means. I think we won't know that until we go into a game and one of them has to play.
Yeah. And DJ McKinney had a pick six on Friday's practice on Dominique Ponder. Caden Salter, another.
You know who threw a pick six? The midget guy from Oregon.
Yesterday. Dylan Gabriel. That's who you're talking about.
Okay. Well,
who is he coached by in college?
My punk that needs to get beat up, but obviously my comedic timing was not there. You just didn't pick up on that.
It worked. It worked. I had to process what you were saying real quick.
You got to be quick, man. You got to be on the ball, Mr. Monster Tiger. I'm always ready to go.
Well, after we're done, I'm going to eat a buff box, and then I will have the energy to react quickly.
If I start, if like you said, go back and get a buff box, and if I eat too many of them, I'm going to look like who am I thinking of? Anquan Barnes before he lost all his weight.
We'll just put a burrito in one hand, a dumbbell in the other, and just pump, eat, and then switch so you don't have, one side just getting too bulky, the other side not getting enough stimulation.
I'm not hiring you as my personal trainer. You're fired. You're fired. But I think what I take out of week 3 of preseason camp the most is that this team has got fantastic talent on it, and it's got some depth at most positions, and I think you hit on something a minute ago that Coach Prime seems to have a little different attitude this year. He's not putting up with stuff that I think they got away with the last couple of years. And I don't, maybe I'm full of crap. I'm not there every day, but I think Coach Prime has a chip on his shoulder and something to prove this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that this wasn't a disciplined program before, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, there is a different edge to this group.
Right.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the first season when there was so much doubt, right? And it worked out really well early in the season. And had they had the offensive line, the defensive line that they have now, they would have been a pretty darn good football team in 2023. But they didn't have those pieces like they do now. And so you throw in kind of that edge. I think that's a good combo with the talent and depth that they have now in the lines.
And a significantly better coaching staff this year than they had 2 years ago, in my opinion, as well. So, I
think Sean Lewis is a good coach. It just was not a good fit here.
Well, I think I'm thinking particularly of the offensive and defensive lines that he's kind of pieced together some staffs out there that at this point are really got a lot of football background, and I think guys are getting taught technique and discipline, things like that. So I really think this program is going to come of age. I mean, a lot of people might think it came of age with 9 wins last year. I think that's the year that the top blows off of it.
Yeah. And just to close out here, I'm going to look through my notes on Saturday's scrimmage. Coach Prime mentioned that it was Judgment Day. He said, if I don't trust you, I can't play you.
Right.
Talked about the offensive line injuries. And then, like you said, he had to restart it a couple times. And he said, quote, I'm sick of the bull junk. Had them do some gassers. It just seemed like it got a little bit better from there. And here's an interesting note here, William, is that they're full on going into Georgia Tech prep on Monday.
Yeah.
And he mentioned we're making our scout team selections after the scrimmage. That's why he called it Judgment Day. But he also threw the caveat out there that, hey, you're going to go against the 1s and 2s every day. That's the best place for you if you don't have a spot right now to prove yourself. And he said that it's not necessarily where you're going to be all season. You can definitely upgrade yourself. And Keaton Wade was a guy last year that really elevated himself. I know he was hurt at this point last year, but when he got back in the mix, he was wreaking havoc on scout team, and that got him back in the mix pretty soon. So they're keeping an eye on all that stuff.
And I think that the level of our scout team this year is going to be so superior to anything we've had the last 2 years, because we're going to have guys on that scout team this year that would have started either of the last 2 years, especially on the 2 lines, and so it's going to help the first and second team be better. And like you said, I think each of the last 2 years we've seen guys kind of come on late in the year, and that's a sign of a well-coached team, because you're teaching guys and they get better as the season goes on. And so I think we're going to see this year guys come on in the second half of the season who maybe aren't playing that much now, but who understand that with hard work they can become something, So that's a good message for him to send, and I think that I just think it's going to be an exciting season.
They got Yaya Atia back in the mix too. We talked about the online injuries.
Yeah.
It's good to see him back out there. He's been dealing with something early on during camp.
Yeah, guys come and go, and then they get back in the mix, and that's the nature of football. You write down a depth chart in the preseason, and then you throw it in the trash by the time the first game comes around.
Yeah, I was going to do depth chart predictions, and I still need to do that. It's just hard because of the injuries, especially on the O-line. It's like, how do I kind of factor all this together right now? Did you see that the Big 12 is going to make programs release injury reports going forward?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They got to do it a few days before the game and then 90 minutes before kickoff. Obviously, this is driven by sports bettors, right? Because they want to know. And I'm followed by so many sports betting services that are just waiting on pregame updates on certain guys. I think that's good transparency for fans out there. You got to get players to sign something, I would imagine, because of HIPAA laws. But I think that's a good thing to kind of a good precedent to set going forward. Just transparency with fans, let them know what's going on in terms of injuries.
I feel like.
Yeah, as long as it's equally enforced against everybody, but no harm in it as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah, it's only conference games for the Big 12. So
yeah,
they won't be doing that for non-conference games because other conferences haven't done that yet.
well, we don't want certain teams in certain crapola cities in certain states who can't handle being criticized to feel like there's a rule being made against them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good segue to the fact that I get to dive into my buff box now and do something with tortillas that they're meant for, which is actually eating them.
Nice. I gotta give you that one.
All right, William. Next week, we were planning to do a live show this week. Some things got in the way of that, but we're going to try to come back next Sunday with a live show. Can you get back to your 11 a.m. time slot, or are we going to be going later next Sunday?
Already planning that with the boss, so that's good. And then
Okay.
and live means people put questions in online and such, right? So
Yeah, so it's going to be next week's show is going to be it's going to be 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and then we will take fan questions, and we're going to do a lot of predictions for the season. We're going to have different categories, rank the top three leading receivers on the team. Obviously, how many wins do the Buffaloes get, and then maybe we can get Sean Niehoff to jump in for a segment, and maybe Matt Smith just for a quick segment to take part of that preseason prediction show. But that's going to be fun because that's going to be really leading up to that opener.
right, and we'll have a lot more information I think after this week too. So hopefully people come in and get some good questions and makes us think and pull up some stuff.
Awesome. William, always appreciate you and always appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.